I'm Toby Hunter, and this is my 4.3 data collection methods. I'm going to start down here because this is the part 1. So research design. Research design is the big picture of what a researcher will do before collecting the data. So it's the big picture scheme of how they're going to collect their data. So before they go into actually collecting the data, they need to think about whether they're going to manipulate any variables or if they're just going to be an observer, whether it's going to be a long-term study or a short-term study, if they're going to be trying to collect qualitative or quantitative data. All this needs to be thought about before they pick which sort of research design they're going to use. So these are the 6 research designs: experimental, correlation, cross-sectional, case study, comparative and longitudinal. I've gone into detail in the boxes, but they're all different and they will produce different sort of data which will then be analysed in different ways. There's also primary and secondary research. Primary research is the research that will be collected by the researcher. So using one of those research designs, a researcher will collect primary research, which is data collected by yourself, so it can be rich and it will be on the exact topic that you want it to be on, because obviously you've conducted it and you won't make the method on anything irrelevant. But it is a lot more time consuming, and it will cost money to hire out labs or hire people to be participants and stuff like that. Secondary research is other people's research, so other researchers will go out and do their own researching, get their own data, and you can look that up on the internet. This is usually done by researchers. Looking at secondary research will be done before conducting their own research to get familiar with maybe past tests that have been done in a similar area, or maybe getting some help on conducting a theory from what other researchers have. Advantages would be that it doesn't cost money, it's easy because it's just on the internet, very quick, not time consuming. But the disadvantages are that it is reliant on other researchers, so if they've been biased in their results, then you're getting invalid data, or there's credibility, so the data might not come from a source. It might be like a primary school research or secondary school research, which won't be very reliable, won't be very creditable, rather than looking at something like a university. Classifications of data. So once you've got your data, researchers will have to classify that in a certain way. The 4 ways are discrete, ordinary, nominal, continuous, and according to how you classify the data, it will be analysed in different ways, because you can't analyse each type of classification in the same way. So discrete data, data that can only be put into 1 or 2 categories, 2 or 3 categories. So are you male or female, or do you play football, or do you play hockey? Ordinal data is a qualitative classification where data will be rank ordered like a league table, like a football league table, but there isn't any telling the difference between the top or the bottom. So instead of ordering people in height by their number, just saying tallest, smallest, maybe in the middle, or you're first in the league, you're last in the league, you're 5th, you're 6th. But there's no telling what separates each thing, or each part of data. Nominal is another qualitative classification where the data is tallied and then put in groups, such as if you asked everyone, a sample of 20 people, whether they played football, hockey, basketball or rugby, you'd put a tally in each box to state how many play each sport, and that will be your nominal data. Continuous is split into two, ratio and interval. Continuous data is anything along the sliding scale, so how tall you can be any number. What's your 100 meter sprint time? Can be any number. Ratio, however, it can't go below 0, such as the height can't be minus 1 centimeters tall. Just 100 meter sprint time, you can't do a 100 meter sprint in minus seconds. 0 is a meaningful absolute number. Interval, however, 0 is just a number on that sliding scale. You can go below it, such as temperature, but 0 isn't absolute. It's sort of meaningless. It's just another number in the sliding scale. Go up to qualitative data collection. So this, if you want to collect qualitative data, you need to be looking for rich data, which is more about thoughts and feelings rather than numerical facts. It's talking about how something is the way it is, not just that it is the way it is. Qualitative data is collected in certain ways. Interviews, which are split up into different categories, questionnaires, and observations. Interviews will be split up into unstructured, semi-structured, structured, and focus group interviews. The advantages of an unstructured interview is that there's no set questions, and you can go on what the participant is telling you. So they find something interesting, you have the ability to go and chase that. You can find out more information from what they've said. Another is that you build more rapport, because it's more of a conversation rather than I'm asking you a question, you're answering the question, and we go to the next question. It's more of a conversation, so you build rapport with the participant, and then they might feel more confident, more comfortable, and they're more likely then to give you valid data, so what they actually feel. And it's very flexible, which I've mentioned. You can there's no script, you just follow the path and see where it takes you. Disadvantages of that is you might not get the data that you need. You might go down a path that is leading away from what you want to find out. It's harder to generalize for the public, because obviously everybody has different opinions, different thoughts and feelings, so every single interview that you carry out will be different, and it will be hard to bring that data and analyze it and compare it, which is the next disadvantage. Advantages of semi-structured interviews. This is when there is a script, but you have the ability to go and follow up interesting things that may come up. Advantages is that you do have guided questions, so you will get the data you need, but you are flexible and you can go and chase things that you find interesting that you think might also be valid that you forgot to include or haven't thought to include. You also build a rapport like unstructured interviews, but the disadvantages are that if you have bad questions, you get bad data, and again, like unstructured interviews, harder to compare to and generalize to everybody, to the public. It's sort of got the advantages and disadvantages of unstructured and structured interviews. For structured interviews, this is when you've got a script, you've got your questions, and there's no chasing on what people say, there's no follow-up questions. So the advantages of this is there's no distractions. You can get a lot of interviews done very quickly because you've got your questions, and you just answer those questions, ask those questions, get the answers, and that's it, that's done. No following up. It's easily generalized because if everyone's answering the same questions, you can then compare what they've said to what he said to what she said, and you know that it's on the same topic, which leads to the next point. Is very simple analysis. Disadvantages: bad questions leads to bad data. If your questions aren't specific enough or the participant doesn't get the questions, they're not likely to answer it properly, and then you're getting bad data. You have to stick to the questions, so there's not really any rapport built with the participant. It's just, I've got a question, you need to answer it. And it's hard to get results from thoughts and feelings when you're just asking questions and there's no follow-up, there's no conversation. Focus groups. This could be structured, unstructured, semi-structured interview, but on multiple people at the same time. So an obvious advantage is that it saves time. Instead of conducting 10 interviews, 5 minutes apiece, you're conducting one interview with the same amount of people. That will be 5 minutes. And you can also observe group dynamics. So if you want to get some data on how people react in a group or act when they're in a group, you've got that data just in the interview. Disadvantages are that there might be one confident person and a few not confident person, and if they have different views, but the confident person is just keeps talking, just keeps answering all the questions, the less confident people will sort of quiet down, maybe not give their point of view, and then you're only sort of getting one point of view and you're thinking that that's what everyone thinks when it might not be. Participant observation. So this is one of the 2 observations. So this is when the researcher will go and watch the participant do their thing in their environment, and the participant will know that the researcher is there and they've given their consent. So the advantages of this is you see them in their natural habitat. So if you're looking at displays of anger, then they will be displaying anger in their natural habitat. They won't be reporting in an interview just telling you whether they get angry or not. And notes can be detailed. Disadvantages, the Hawthorne effect. Participant may change their behaviour because they know they're being watched, or they might change their behaviour because they might know what the researcher is looking for. Questionnaires. This is a written structured interview, so instead of going and getting someone in and asking the questions, you give them a sheet of paper, they answer the questions there. It's very quick and very effective. You can, if it's on by post, or by email, you can email it out to 100 people, they'll answer, and hopefully you'll get 50% reply, and that's your data. Disadvantages are that the participants could just go and skip questions, might not answer every single question, and the researcher has no control over the answers. If they don't understand the question, you can't do anything about that. If you're not there, they just won't answer it, and then you're not getting your data. Non-participant observation. So this is where you go and watch the participant. So this might be you'll go and watch a football game as a fan, but the participant doesn't know you're there. So the advantages, again, see them in their natural habitat. No Hawthorne effect because they don't know you're watching. They're not going to change their actions because they know they're being watched, or because they might want to please you because they don't know you're there. But disadvantages, there might be ethical issues. You're obviously not getting consent because they don't know you're there, and it could be very time consuming. Quantitative data. So this is more numerical data that is objective. You shouldn't be looking at thoughts and feelings. It's just looking at what happens rather than why it happens, how it happens. It's just objective data. It's conducted in a few ways: questionnaires, observation, and experiments. Questionnaires, again, you can send out a lot. Sort of the same as qualitative. Send out a lot, get a lot of questions, get a lot of answers very quickly, not very expensive, but social desirability might change your answers just to please the researcher. No control in detailing answers, and participants just may miss out questions and you're not getting your data. Observation. It's the same. See them in their natural habitat. You can identify their strengths and weaknesses in the particular event, and it is credits all aspects of the sport. So not only the goal scorers, but you'll be looking at the defensive side of things, the passing side of things, rather than just the shooting and the scoring. Disadvantages, again, they might change the way they play because they know they're being watched. They want to please you. Very time consuming. And in covert, which is when they don't know you're there, there's obviously ethical issues again. Alright, perhaps in another video.